Welcome to Kaiser Watch with John Kaiser. I'm your host, Jim Goddard.
John, what's coming up on today's show?
Jim, today we're going to be mercifully brief for our audience. I'm only going to talk about two favorites. One is Arizona Gold, the other is PJX Resources. Both are discovery exploration stories, and I'm going to give an update of where we are and what we can still hope to expect.
Is the weather cool enough yet for Arizona Gold to start drilling its Philadelphia project?
When I last talked about Arizona Gold, that was a Kaiser Watch episode, October 2nd. I was grumbling about the fact that these guys had got their permit in June, but when July rolled around and they were ready to drill, they just couldn't start drilling because the temperature was so hot. It was 115, 120, that it was unsafe to be drilling. And it was still the case early October, but at the time they had just closed a $4.6 million financing. They bit the bullet at 15.4 million units at 30 cents. This will come free trading in early February. And if it is true that drilling is now underway, by then we should know if the Philadelphia project has gone beyond being a high-grade gold-silver vein play to being a bulk tonnage scenario. Now, on October 8th, Arizona Gold put out a news release that drill pad site preparation is nearly complete, and it's now almost a week later, so presumably they are drilling now. From drill pad number 1, they have 4 holes planned, and the first one will be angled to intersect the Philadelphia vein roughly where they had intersected it drilling from the patented claims where they didn't have to go through the BLM approval process. And then the other ones will gradually step deeper until the fourth one will be a vertical hole. Now, what's important about this drilling is not so much as to what happens to the vein as it deeps deeper. They think it is flattening somewhat. It would be nice to see the vein thicken, but that's, if it hadn't thickened before, why expect that to happen later? What's really important is the Red Hill hypothesis. And during earlier drilling of the vein, they were initially just focused on the high grade, but they noticed that they were seeing decent, 1 gram plus per ton gold grades in the footwall above the vein. Too low grade to be underground mine, but if this exists on a bulk tonnage basis through a big stockwork system, that could be very serious. That could scale the target of the system from sort of 500,000 to 1 million ounces into the 2 to 5 million ounce system. Now, they had done a CSAMT resistivity survey in the eastern part of the property, and this showed that there was an anomaly centered close to the edge of the original boundary of the BLM lands, and they developed this Red Hill hypothesis that this is actually the big feeder system to the east. The vein, because it's a crack in the rock, is where the fluids channel through more efficiently and drop their gold-silver payload, creating a high grade. But based on what they're seeing in the footwall, it was also possible that the fluids diffused through the stockwork that was above the vein system. And that had never really been looked at in the past because historical work was all focused on high-grade underground gold mining. So the market will be watching very closely this drill program. And they've said they estimate 10 to 20 days per core hole to get it complete. And they will be publishing a press release once they've logged it, and they'll give us a section, the veins over here, this is the sort of rock host that we have here. They won't have any idea whether the rock host is mineralized, but there will be geological clues if this is the right type of rock that could have soaked up disseminated gold. And ideally, they would like to see 1 to 2 gram per ton gold, because that would be a really good open pit mining system. Now, the first assays I suspect we will not get until early December, and these will be critical because the market will be looking hard at what is the gold grade. And if there is a meaningful gold grade present, then the probability grows that the other holes, as they march east closer towards the heart of the CSAMT anomaly, will delineate a significant bulk tonnage system. But it also has a leveraged impact. They have collected ASTER data for the whole project area, including the expanded eastern part, what they call Philadelphia East. Now, ASTER data is satellite imagery which picks up reflections of the rocks at the surface on Earth. And this gets analyzed into different types of alteration based on the sort of minerals that are typically formed when hydrothermal fluids pump and alter an area. Now, this doesn't mean there's going to be any precious or base metals presence. It's nothing it doesn't tell you anything about that. You're going to have to go on the ground and do prospecting, soil sampling to figure out what that potential is. And often the gold or base metal potential will be deeper because you just have the peripheral expressions. But without a hydrothermal system, you're probably not going to have any base or precious metals. Now, what has them excited is the area where they're drilling now, which is in the vicinity of the CSAMT anomaly. This has a argillic and phyllic alteration signature right over this area where they are drilling. So, that's kind of obvious. They already knew there should be something like that because they have this mineralized Philadelphia vein that they've traced over 1.6 kilometers. But farther east, in that Philadelphia East area, is a substantially larger ASTER anomaly indicating phyllic and argillic alteration. And this area has never been explored. They know nothing about the geochemistry at surface. They will have boots on the ground while the drilling's going on in the western part to see what's there. And if this is another hydrothermal center, and the one to the west is also this, Red Hill hypothesis turns out to be a mineralized system. That boosts the chance that what's going on in the east is also something similar. And they managed to round up ASTER data for AngloGold's Silicon Merlin system, which is in southwestern Nevada. Silicon was initially discovered, and it has a low-grade resource of 4 million ounces. And then as they moved farther east, they discovered the Merlin system, which has about 9 million ounces. And in their slide presentation, they've published a comparison of a scaled comparison of the Philadelphia ASTER data and that over top the Silicon and Merlin system of AngloGold. And while the Silicon and Merlin ASTER footprints are closer to each other, the overall footprint is similar. So they're using this as an analogy that if the Red Hill hypothesis is correct, it's possible that a much larger area, which because nothing's outcropping at surface, has never really been tested for gold potential, could have substantial potential. So this is what I would call kind of like a leveraged hypothesis, where if you start getting confirmation with this initial drilling that there is meaningful gold mineralization in the footwall, it also boosts the chances that something much bigger to the east could be similar. And of course, they will still have to go through the BLM process of applying for permits. But because of the 2 drill pads they have now, they can be very busy just delineating a silicon-style system that might end up in 2 to 5 million ounce range.
Did PJX Resources ever get extra drills into Dewdney Trail for its Sullivan 2 hunt?
The last time PJX Resources published anything was in early September, when they conceded that of the first 3 or 4 holes, first couple had missed, but the third one had intersected vent-style mineralization, which, however, was primarily pyrrhotite, iron sulfides. There were traces of sphalerite, the zinc mineral, and galena, the lead mineral, but clearly this was not anything like the boulders they had found in the talus field at the bottom of this mountain slope, which has the Proterozoic stratigraphy showing up top, and then lower level screened by a much younger cyanide dike system that's actually like a curtain shrouding everything. And the boulders presumably spill out from little windows, erosional windows inside this dike sheet. And they have not yet been able to figure out where those windows are, because they have to climb up a mountainside and prospect it. Anyways, the market was not too pleased with these initial results because they thought of it as a kill shot, sniper kill shot. You park the drill there where you think the horizon, the massive sulfide horizon is going to be, and instead they get something else which is structurally related to, say, the Sullivan one, where the pyrrhotite mineralization is at the base of the pile that has the rich ore grade zinc, lead, silver mineralization. And the market said, okay, well, I guess this is going to be complicated. And the company indicated in that news release that, we are thinking about adding more rigs to this property. And then everything went silent. And one of my spies in southeastern British Columbia in the Cranbrook area had driven by the valley there, because the road goes by there, and you can drive along the road that goes into the Estrella former vein mine valley. You can look up at the hillside with your binoculars, see the drill pads. Can't see very much what's going on, but you can tell if something's going on. And there wasn't anything going on. So this was not particularly great rumor. So I called John Keating and actually managed to get hold of him in a horrible call that kept dropping out because clearly he was in the field. And he said, yes, we are just shutting down drilling. We're still logging core. We have done 16 holes. And yes, we have had 3 rigs working on the property. So after the initial heli rig was deployed, they got another heli rig to explore additional parts to try and sort out the geometry. And because they had a suspicion that the stratigraphy that dips into this sort of north-south oriented mountain range dips to the northeast, they suspected that maybe the stratigraphy folds over, and actually continues under the valley where the Estrella vein is located, and basically the whole stratigraphic package would be upside down. So they got the 3rd rig, was a ground rig, and they started drilling holes in the valley to see if they could intersect this folded over stratigraphy. John, of course, wouldn't tell me anything, and I said, well, I'm not hearing any buzz coming out of the Cranbrook bars on that, where the ex-Cominco Mafia will be watching this very closely, and we know drillers and helicopter pilots, if they see anything good, they will be unable to resist talking about, and we should see some sort of nibbling on the upside in the market. Instead, we see these big, giant passive bids, presumably waiting for the flow-through stock that needs to be liquidated before the end of the year, and with nobody having any sort of a special knowledge. And he said, well, I read the Riot Act to everybody. I said, nothing can be said about anything that's in the box. And basically, the impression I got, he was very good spirits. He wasn't revealing that they had any sort of slam dunk hole saying, okay, we got the 100-meter or 50-meter thick pile of Sullivan 2, and it's now just going to be a matter of grid drilling around it to delineate it. But the fact that they are shipping all these 16 holes for assaying, and he's not going to put out any commentary about anything because he needs the assays. And that's kind of code for saying what they are encountering is complex. It's not going to be a simple layer cake with a 20 to 40 meter thick horizon of massive sulfides that's going to be 100 to 150 million ton Sullivan 2 or Sullivan 1 equivalent. So I think we probably won't get any assays until December. I did ask him about, if you can put together a picture of what you think is going on and develop a strategy for returning next year, are you going to have permitting headaches? And of course, the big headache this year was how long it took to get this permit. He said, well, even though it took long, it is a 5-year blanket permit over this overall area, we can move the drill pad anywhere that we want. But when we do that, we need to pull in a biologist, and they have a list of several dozen plant and wildlife species that are considered endangered or sensitive, and the biologist needs to do a sweep of the area to make sure none of these species on the list are present in the area. Obviously, if they are present, they'll need to find a different place to locate the drill pad. So he says we have a lot of flexibility in figuring out where we put our next drill pads, but right now, until we get the assays back and can put together meaningful sections to see where we are in the geometry of a classic SEDEX system that has undergone folding, and figure out where is what, we're going to just stay silent about this, and you're just going to have to be patient and wait for the results. But I got the impression that whatever it is they've seen, this is not like, oh, everything was an illusion, there's nothing there. It's going to set the stage for a renewed drilling campaign next year with hopefully expectations much more clearly mapped out than they are now.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been talking with John Kaiser. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on Kaiser Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as a recommendation to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at kaiserresearch.com.